They followed the trail the facility allowed them to see. That was the first mistake. Not because they were foolish, not because they were reckless, because everything about the facility encouraged the same conclusion. The cleared rooms, the emptied research wings, the sealed transport routes, the descending platforms inside the vast central shaft. All of it pointed downward. All of it suggested movement. The facility was carrying its most valuable subjects away from them, pulling research, bodies, data, and equipment deeper into itself before the wolves could reach them. So they followed. Of course they followed. Predators tracked motion. Soldiers followed supply lines. Prisoners chased openings. Every instinct they had told them the same thing. Keep moving. Keep pressure on. Don't let the enemy settle. But the facility did settle. That was what made it so difficult to understand. It kept changing, but never with panic. Every door that closed did so with purpose. Every route that vanished did so after the wolves had already learned just enough to be drawn forward. Every abandoned chamber felt like a clue, but each clue led only to another absence. The facility wasn't merely retreating from them. It was making them spend strength on the spaces it had already decided to lose. Everlyn felt the cost of it in the group before anyone said it aloud. The civilians were slowing. Not dramatically. Not enough to collapse the movement. Just enough. A mother had begun carrying a child who had stopped pretending they could walk unaided. 2 soldiers supported a man whose leg had been injured during the earlier breach. The rescued wolf drifted between awareness and absence, sometimes walking with Malik's steadying hand against his shoulder, sometimes sagging until Malik lifted him without comment. The wider pack adjusted around them, but even wolves had limits. Hunger, fear, exhaustion, injury, all of it gathered quietly in the spaces between decisions. Kane saw the tactical problem first. He didn't say it, but Everlyn could feel it in the way he kept checking distances, counting routes, measuring how fast they could move if they had to run. Lyra saw another problem entirely. Her attention stayed on the rescued wolf and the way his body reacted before the facility changed. When a route sealed ahead, he flinched half a breath before the door moved. When power shifted beneath the floor, his fingers tightened before the lights altered. Whatever had been done to him had left traces inside his nervous system, and the facility's rhythm still pulled at them. Kalen was moving ahead through the maintenance layers, and for the first time since they had entered the deeper levels, Everlyn could feel frustration bleeding through the link. Not fear. Not panic. Frustration. Kalen followed transport flow and lost it when the route split into 4 identical shafts. She followed power allocation and found it rerouted through systems that no longer served the sector they were standing in. She followed security priority and found it looped back through abandoned corridors that had already been stripped clean. Communications were worse. They didn't travel in straight lines. They fractured, recombined, vanished into encoded layers, then reappeared somewhere else wearing a different function. Every path ended. Every answer dissolved. Kalen stopped in a narrow control spine with one hand pressed against a half-open panel, breathing carefully through irritation. The panel showed movement in 6 directions and decision in none. That was the problem. She could see what the facility had done, but not where the command began. Transport units moved, power shifted, doors sealed, subjects relocated, chambers died. All of it was visible after the fact. None of it revealed the cause. The facility kept showing her consequences and hiding the moment before them. She sent a clipped impression through the link. It keeps branching. Everlyn received it while guiding the group through another stripped passage, where the walls still carried the faint warmth of removed systems. She didn't answer immediately. There was no simple reassurance to give. Kalen didn't need comfort. She needed the right question, and Everlyn could feel that they were not there yet. The passage opened into an observation gallery overlooking 3 transport lanes, crossing at different heights. Each lane carried movement away from them. Empty frames rose. Sealed units descended. Security escorts shifted with the transports, not searching outward, not hunting, only protecting what traveled inside. The wolves watched from concealment as 3 separate convoys passed in 3 separate directions, each guarded, each marked with different priority bands, each vanishing into different routes before the facility closed the view behind them. Kane exhaled through his nose, controlled, but hard. 3 routes. Malik looked at the rescued wolf, whose eyes had gone distant again. Which one? No one answered. That was the trap. The facility had given them too many trails. Everlyn watched the last transport disappear and understood the cruelty of the design. If they chased one route, they lost the others. If they split, they weakened the civilians and fractured the pack. If they stayed, the facility kept moving everything further away. The machine didn't need to beat them in open combat. It only needed to make every choice feel like a loss. Kaylin arrived moments later, dropping silently from an upper maintenance hatch onto the gallery floor. She looked at the sealed transport lanes, then at the darkened control panels along the wall. I tried following the power, she said. It lies. Kane turned toward her. Power lies. Kaylin nodded once, irritated enough not to soften it. Here it does. It reroutes through dead sectors to hide live ones. Transport does the same. Security does the same. Every system points somewhere else by the time I touch it. Lyra's gaze remained fixed on the sealed lanes. So we're blind? No, Kaylin said. Worse, we're being shown too much. That landed. Everlyn looked at her then. Explain. Kaylin stepped toward the inactive wall panel and pulled its casing loose with a sharp motion. Beneath it, faint green pathways pulsed through dark metal, splitting into dozens of branching lines. Every system gives us a trail. Transport gives us movement. Security gives us threat response. Power gives us importance. But none of them agree long enough to follow. By the time we choose one, the facility has already changed the others. It's not hiding by going dark. It's hiding by moving everything at once. The civilians listened without fully understanding, but the wolves did. Movement had become noise. Too many trails, too many changes, too many directions, and each one designed to cost them time they didn't have. Everlyn felt the group's frustration sharpen. Wolves liked pursuit. They were built for it. But pursuit required a trail that meant something. Kael'ren had been silent through all of it. He stood slightly apart, watching the sealed transport routes, with his head angled in a way that made him seem older than the facility itself. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost conversational. Predators don't chase every hoof. Kane frowned. What does that mean? Kael'ren didn't answer immediately. His eyes moved to Kane first, acknowledging the question. Then they shifted to Everlyn. He watched her for a moment, not testing her, not challenging her, but measuring whether the thought had reached the place in her where instinct became strategy. Only then did he explain. If a herd scatters, the predator does not waste strength chasing every animal. It learns where the herd is being driven. Hooves make noise. Direction reveals intent. The words settled slowly, not because they were difficult, because they were obvious in a way none of them had allowed themselves to see. Kaylin stopped moving. Her eyes lowered, but she was no longer looking at the panel in front of her. She was replaying everything. The emptied chambers, the convoys, the sealed routes, the power lies, the security loops, the dead sectors left behind like shed skin. They had been following the facility's movement, as if movement itself mattered. But movement was only the after effect. Something decided before anything moved. Something selected which subjects mattered, which chambers were expendable, Which routes stayed open, which routes died. Everlyn saw Kalen's expression change. Recognition, not victory. The first crack in the wrong question. Kalen looked up slowly. "We've been following movement,"